The next morning started exactly like the one before. Esther left for work at 5:30 a.m., moving through the apartment like a tired ghost. She made breakfast for the kids, oatmeal with honey and sliced bananas, because she'd read somewhere that it was good for growing children. She prepared their lunch, jollof rice with chicken and vegetables, carefully packed in 3 separate containers. She left detailed instructions on a piece of paper stuck to the refrigerator with a magnet. Lessons from 9 to 11 a.m., lunch at 12, nap at 2, TV for 2 hours maximum. If there's an emergency, call me. I love you. Mama, she kissed each of them on the forehead. Sophia, Sebastian, Stephen, always in that order, whispered her daily prayer. Lord, protect my babies. Keep them safe. Keep them out of trouble, especially out of trouble. And slipped out quietly. The moment the door clicked shut, Sophia's eyes flew open. Like clockwork. She waited 5 minutes, counting in her head. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, then jumped out of bed and ran to her brother's room. Wake up, she hissed, shaking them both. It's day 1. Operation Christmas Money continues. Sebastian groaned, pulling his pillow over his head. Do we have to? Yes, we have jobs now. We have responsibilities. We're business people. Business people sleep in, Stephen muttered from under his blanket. Not the successful ones. Now get up before I pour water on you. That got them moving. They dragged themselves out of bed, got dressed, ate their breakfast. The oatmeal was actually pretty good, and settled in for their morning lessons with Mr. Attaway. Today was better than yesterday. They actually paid attention. Sebastian answered all the math questions correctly and only bragged about it twice, which was progress. Sophia read a whole passage aloud without stumbling once. Stephen managed to stay awake for the entire 2 hours. Mr. Attaway was pleased. So you can focus when you want to. I knew it. Maybe there's hope for you 3 after all. Yes, sir, they chorused, trying not to look too eager for lessons to end. When 11 a.m. finally came and Mr. Attaway left, the triplets exploded into action like they'd been wound up and released. They changed into comfortable clothes. No need for church outfits today. They were actually working now, not pitching. They grabbed a quick snack. They told each other to look professional and remember to smile and don't mess this up. Then they headed out. But first, they had to get past Mama Tulu. Mama Tulu was the old woman who lived in the apartment next door. She was in her 70s, partially deaf in one ear, and had made it her life's mission to know everyone's business. Esther had asked her to keep an eye on the children while she was at work, which Mama Tulu took very seriously. Too seriously, in the triplets' opinion. Mama Tulu, Sophia called out sweetly as they passed her door. We're going for a stroll. Mama Tulu appeared in her doorway, squinting at them suspiciously. A stroll? You people are always going for strolls these days. Where are you going? What are you doing? Just stretching our legs, Ma, Sebastian said, putting on his most innocent smile. Exercise is good for the body. That's what they teach us in school. And our friends live just a few blocks down, Stephen added. We're doing a school project together. Mama Tulu looked at them for a long moment, her eyes narrowed like a detective examining his suspects. Then she shook her head. You children, always running around. Okay, go, but don't go far. Stay in the estate. Your mother said I should watch over you, and if anything happens to you, she will kill me, and then she will kill you. So don't wander off. Yes, Ma, we'll be back soon. They practically ran away before she could ask more questions. Their first stop was Mama Cola's house. Willie, the fluffy white Pomeranian, was so excited to see them that he jumped up and down like a tiny bouncing ball, his tail wagging so fast it was a blur. Oh, he likes you, Mama Cola said, beaming. He doesn't like everyone, you know, but he can tell you're good children. Here's his leash. Remember, 2 hours. Walk him around the estate. Let him sniff things. Let him do his business. But don't let him eat anything off the ground. He has a sensitive stomach. And don't let him near that bad dog 3 houses down, the big German shepherd. They don't get along. Yes, Mama Cola. Walking Willie turned out to be easier than expected. He was small, well-trained, and seemed perfectly content to trot along beside them, stopping occasionally to sniff interesting smells or mark his territory. "This is actually kind of fun," Stephen admitted, watching Willie chase a butterfly. "And we're getting paid for it," Sebastian added, grinning. "See," Sophia said triumphantly, "I told you this was a good idea." After 2 hours of walking Willie around the estate, during which they saw at least 5 neighbors who smiled and waved and commented on how responsible they were, they returned him to Mama Cola. "Perfect timing," she said, checking her watch. "Exactly 2 hours. You children are very punctual. I like that. Here," she handed them a small bag. "Some chin-chin for you, freshly made this morning." "Thank you, Mama Cola." Next stop, Mrs. Peters' house. The chickens were loud, messy, and honestly kind of scary. They pecked at the triplets' shoes and made weird clucking sounds that sounded vaguely threatening. "Why are chickens so mean?" Stephen complained, jumping back as one particularly aggressive hen lunged at him. "What did I ever do to you, chicken?" "Just throw the feed and back away slowly," Sophia instructed, demonstrating, "Don't make eye contact. Assert dominance." "How do you assert dominance over a chicken?" "I don't know. Just do it." They managed to feed all 12 chickens, collect 8 eggs carefully because Mrs. Peters said if they broke any, it would come out of their pay, and clean the coop, which was disgusting and smelled terrible, and made them all gag at least 3 times. 50,000 naira, Sebastian muttered to himself as he scooped chicken poop into a bucket. Think about the 50,000 naira. Think about Christmas presents. Think about, oh God, it's on my shoe. By the time they finished, they smelled like chickens in regret. "We're never eating chicken again," Stephen declared. "Yes, we are," Sophia said. "We're just going to appreciate it more now that we know what it takes to raise them." Mrs. Peter was delighted with their work. "Oh, wonderful. You did such a good job. The coop is so clean. Here," she handed them a container. "Some fresh eggs for your mother. Tell her I said hello." Third stop, Mr. Adewell's garden, not their tutor, a different Mr. Adewell who had lived 4 houses down. Watering the garden was actually peaceful, therapeutic even. The sun was warm but not too hot. The flowers were beautiful. The garden hose made a nice soothing sound. "I could do this every day," Sebastian said, watering a row of hibiscus flowers. "Don't get too comfortable," Sophia warned Ed. "We still have the mansion." And just like that, the peaceful feeling evaporated. The mansion. Mr. Kenneth's mansion. Their stomachs all did nervous flips at the same time. By the time they reached the grand gates at the end of the street, it was almost 2 p.m. Pa Solomon was already waiting for them, his face breaking into a warm smile when he saw them approaching. "Ah, my favorite triplets, right on time. My boss said you would be coming at 12, but I told him, sir, they are children. They might be a little late. But look at you, only 2 hours late. That's very good." "Sorry, Pa Solomon," Sophia said sheepishly. "We had other jobs to do first." "Other jobs?" Pa Solomon's eyebrows shot up. "You children are busier than my boss, and he runs 3 companies. Come, he's waiting for you in his office." They entered the compound, still just as impressive in daylight, maybe even more so, walked up to the grand entrance, and rang the doorbell. This time, instead of Kenneth, a woman opened the door. She looked to be in her 40s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. She was wearing a simple uniform, clearly the housekeeper. "Oh," she said, her face lighting up. "You must be the triplets. Mr. Kenneth told me you were coming." "I'm Mrs. Rachel. I'm the housekeeper here." Come in. Mr. Kenneth is upstairs in his office. He's been waiting for you." She ushered them inside, and the triplets' mouths fell open. If the outside was impressive, the inside was absolutely magnificent. The entrance hall had marble floors so shiny you could see your reflection. A massive chandelier hung from the ceiling, sparkling like 1,000 diamonds. Paintings hung on the walls. Real paintings, the expensive kind you see in museums. A grand staircase curved up to the second floor with railings that looked like they were made of gold. They probably weren't, but they looked like it. Everything screamed money. Serious, serious money. "Don't touch anything, okay?" Mrs. Rachel said gently, noticing their wide-eyed stares. "Mr. Kenneth has some very valuable things. Just follow me upstairs and be good children, yes?" "Yes, ma'am," they whispered, almost afraid to breathe too loudly in case they broke something expensive just by existing. They followed Mrs. Rachel up the grand staircase. Sebastian counted the steps. There were 23. Down a long hallway with more paintings and sculptures, and finally to a large wooden door at the end. Mrs. Rachel knocked. "Sir, the children are here." "Send them in," Kenneth's voice called from inside. Mrs. Rachel opened the door and gestured for them to enter. "Go ahead, and remember, be good." They stepped inside, and their mouths fell open again. Kenneth's office was huge, bigger than their entire apartment, maybe bigger than 2 of their apartments put together. One entire wall was floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, packed with what must have been thousands of books. A massive mahogany desk sat in the center of the room with a sleek computer, a tablet, and papers neatly organized in folders. Expensive-looking chairs, a leather couch, more artwork on the walls, large windows that let in natural light and offered a view of the gardens below. And there, sitting at his desk, reviewing something on his tablet, was Kenneth. He looked different today, less tired. He'd clearly slept well. He was wearing a simple white shirt, probably cost more than their mother made in a month, and looked every bit the successful billionaire businessman. When he saw them, he smiled, a real, genuine smile that made him look younger and friendlier. "Ah, there you are, right on time." He checked his very expensive watch. "Well, 2 hours late, but that's okay. I figured you might have other commitments." "Sorry, sir," Sophia said quickly. "We had other jobs to finish first." "Other jobs?" Kenneth raised an eyebrow, looking amused. "How many jobs do you have?" "5, sir, including this one." Kenneth let out a low whistle. 5 jobs at 7 years old. I didn't have 5 jobs until I was 25. You 3 are more industrious than most adults I know. The triplets beamed with pride. "All right," Kenneth said, standing up. "Let me show you what needs to be done." He walked over to the massive bookshelf and gestured at it. The triplets' necks hurt from looking up at how tall it was. "As you can see, I have a lot of books," Kenneth said. "And they're not very organized. Some are arranged by author, some by genre. Some are just wherever I put them last. I need you to organize them properly. Author first, alphabetically, then by publication date if there are multiple books by the same author. Think you can handle that?" The triplets nodded eagerly. "Good, and while you're organizing, you can dust the shelves too. There are cleaning supplies in that closet over there." He pointed to a small door in the corner. "But remember," his voice became serious, "be very careful. Some of these books are first editions, very old, very valuable. Handle them gently, and do not touch anything on my desk, or the artwork, or anything that's not a book or a shelf, understood?" "Yes, sir." "Excellent. I'll be right here if you need anything. I have some work to do, but I'll keep an eye on you." And with that, he returned to his desk and his tablet, leaving the triplets to begin their work. For the first hour, everything went smoothly. The triplets worked together like a well-oiled machine. Sebastian, being the little professor, took charge of deciding how books should be organized. Sophia handled the actual arranging, her small hands careful with each book. Stephen was in charge of dusting, which he took very seriously, maybe too seriously. He sneezed at least 10 times from all the dust. They worked quietly, mindful that Kenneth was in the room. Every so often, he would glance up from his work, watch them for a moment, and smile before returning to his tablet. They're good kids, he thought. Well-behaved, hard-working. Their mother raised them well. After about an hour, Kenneth's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and frowned. Important business partner. He'd been waiting for this call all week. Kids, he said, standing up, oh, I need to take this call. It's very important. I'll be just outside in the hallway. You keep working, okay? And remember, don't touch anything except the books and shelves. And yes, sir, they chorused. Kenneth stepped out of the office, closing the door behind him. His voice faded as he walked down the hallway. Hello? Yes, I've been waiting for your call. The moment the door clicked shut, the atmosphere in the room changed. The triplets had been working diligently, focused on their task. But now, with Kenneth gone, Sophia's attention began to wander. She was dusting a shelf when her eyes fell on a particular book. It was wedged between two larger books, its spine barely visible. But something about it caught her eye. It was a romance novel, and her mother had the exact same book. She remembered seeing it on her mother's bedside table countless times. The same cover, the same author, the same everything. Guys, she whispered, her heart starting to beat faster. Look at this. Sebastian and Stephen abandoned their work and came over. What? Sebastian asked. This book, Sophia said, carefully pulling it out. Mama has this exact same book. I've seen it in her room. So? Stephen shrugged. Lots of people have the same books. That's how books work. I know, but Sophia turned the book over in her hands. Something felt significant about this. She couldn't explain it, but her instincts were screaming at her that this meant something. Let me see, Sebastian said, taking the book from here. He opened it carefully, flipping through the pages. And that's when it happened. A photograph slipped out from between the pages and fluttered to the floor like a fallen leaf. All three of them froze. Time seemed to slow down. The photograph lay face up on the expensive carpet, and even from where they stood, they could see it was a picture of a woman. Sophia bent down slowly, her hand trembling slightly, and picked it up. She looked at it. Her eyes went wide. Her mouth fell open. She couldn't breathe. What? Stephen asked, trying to see. What is it? Sophia couldn't speak. She just stared at the photograph, her brain trying to process what her eyes were seeing, but her mind refusing to accept it. Sebastian grabbed the photo from her hands. He looked at it. He went completely still. His face turned pale. Oh my God, he whispered. What? Stephen practically shouted, snatching the photo. He looked at it, and the world stopped spinning. The person in the photograph, smiling, young, beautiful, wearing a university sweatshirt, was their mother, not someone who looked like their mother, not someone who could be their mother's twin, their actual mother, Esther. There was no mistaking it. The same eyes, the same smile, the same beauty mark on her left cheek. Everything. Is this? Stephen's voice came out as a croak. Is this Mama? Yes, Sophia whispered, still staring at the photo like it might disappear if she looked away. It looks exactly like her. But Sebastian's brain was working overtime trying to make sense of this. But what is Mama's picture doing here? In this man's house? In this man's book? They stood there in shocked silence, the photograph held between them like a sacred artifact. This picture looks very familiar, Sophia said slowly, her voice distant. I think I've seen it before. This was Mama when she was in university, when she was in school. She showed us some old pictures once, remember? This is her, from years ago. But why does this strange man have a picture of our mother? Stephen's voice was rising with panic and confusion. What is going on? Shh, Sebastian hissed. Keep your voice down. He's right outside. They all froze again, listening. Kenneth's voice drifted faintly from the hallway. Yes, I understand the concerns. We can address that in the next meeting. He was still on his phone call. They had time, but not much. What do we do? Stephen whispered frantically. Do we take it? Do we tell him we found it? Do we put it back? Sophia said decisively, her voice shaking. We put it back exactly where we found it. We don't say anything. Not yet. Not until we figure out what's going on. But now, Sophia commanded. Sebastian quickly slipped the photograph back into the book, making sure it was in the same place. Sophia shoved the book back onto the shelf, her hands trembling. They had just finished when they heard Kenneth's footsteps approaching. The three of them scattered back to their position, grabbing books and dusters and trying to look like they'd been working the whole time. Their hearts were pounding so loudly they were sure Kenneth could hear them. The door opened. Kenneth walked back in, still looking at his phone, typing something. "Sorry about that, man," he said, not looking up. "Business never stops, even on..." He finally looked up and saw them all staring at him with wide eyes. "Weekends, are you okay? You look a bit pale." "We're fine," they all said at once, their voices too high, too loud. Kenneth frowned slightly. "Are you sure? Do you need some water? A break?" "No, Sophia said quickly. We're just working very hard, concentrating." Kenneth didn't look entirely convinced, but he shrugged and returned to his desk. "All right. Well, you've been working for over an hour. How about you take a break? Mrs. Rachel made some snacks. I'll call her up." "No," they all shouted. Kenneth jumped, startled by their volume. "I mean," Sebastian said quickly, lowering his voice. "We're almost done, sir. We'd like to finish first, if that's okay." "We're very professional," Stephen added, nodding vigorously. "We like to complete our tasks." Kenneth looked at them for a long moment, then smiled. "All right, professional workers, I respect that. Finish up then." For the next hour, the triplets worked in complete silence. But their minds were screaming. Everything had changed. Nothing made sense. What was their mother's picture doing in this man's house? How did they know each other? Were they friends? Old classmates? Or something more? Could he be? No, that was impossible, wasn't it? When they finally finished organizing and dusting the bookshelves, Kenneth inspected their work with an approving nod. "Excellent job," he said, genuinely impressed. "This is better than I expected. You three are very thorough, very professional." He pulled out his wallet and handed Sophia an envelope. "Here's payment for today. And as promised, a little extra because you did such good work." "Thank you, sir," Sophia said quietly, taking the envelope with trembling hands. "Mrs. Rachel," Kenneth called out. The housekeeper appeared in the doorway almost immediately. "Yes, sir?" "Can you pack some snacks for the children? They've worked very hard today." "Of course, sir." 5 minutes later, the triplets left Kenneth's mansion with an envelope full of money and 3 packages of homemade cookies and fruit. They walked home in complete silence. Their usual chatter was gone. Their jokes and bickering had disappeared. They just walked, each lost in their own thoughts, their minds spinning with questions that had no answers. When they got home, they went straight to Sophia's room without a word. Sophia closed the door. They sat on her bed, looking at each other. Nobody spoke for a full minute. Finally, Sophia broke the silence. "We need to talk about what we just saw." "Are we going to pretend we didn't see what we saw earlier today?" Sophia asked, looking at her brothers with an intensity that made them both shift uncomfortably. Sebastian was the first to respond. "I've been thinking about it nonstop. I'm really shocked. That looked exactly like Mama. Not just similar, not just, oh, they could be related. That was her." Stephen, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. "That doesn't just look like Mama. That is Mama. 100%. No doubt about it." "But how did Mama's picture get into that man's book?" Sebastian asked, his voice rising with frustration. "Into his office? Could it be that he knows Mama?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Then Stephen said what they were all thinking but were too afraid to say out loud. "Or could it be our dad?" Silence. Complete in total silence. The words seemed to echo in the small bedroom, growing louder with each repetition in their minds. "Our dad, our dad, our dad." Sophie and Sebastian both turned to stare at Stephen like he'd just said something absolutely crazy, which, to be fair, he kind of had. "Stop daydreaming, please," Sophia said, shaking her head. "Maybe they are just old friends, or old acquaintances. He doesn't have to be our dad. That's a huge leap. But it wouldn't be bad if he's our dad, Stephen protested, his eyes lighting up with the possibility. I mean, think about it. He's rich. He has a big house. He has courtiers. He has a chandelier. If he's our dad, then automatically we are rich too. Then we get everything we want, and we don't have to work again for the rest of our lives. We get to eat good food every day. Is all you think about food? Sophia snapped. Focus. This is a serious matter. Well, I'm being serious, Stephen shot back. If he's our dad, then we'll live like princes and princesses, like royalty. What do you think? The triplets paused, actually considering this. It was a nice thought, a tempting thought, living in that big mansion, never worrying about money, never seeing their mother come home exhausted, never hearing her cry in her room when she thought they were asleep. Our mom wouldn't have to work so hard anymore, Sebastian said quietly, and something in his voice made them all feel a little sad. That's true, Sophia admitted. If he's our dad, then Mama wouldn't have to pick up extra shifts. She wouldn't have to work like a slave just to give us Christmas presents. She could rest. She could be happy. They sat with that thought for a moment. Then Stephen brought them back to reality. But what are the chances? Maybe they really are just old friends or old classmates. People can know each other without being, romantic. Maybe, Sophia said, but she didn't sound convinced. But there's only one way to find out more. What? Sebastian asked. Mama has books too, Sophia said slowly, an idea forming. She has romance books just like that one. She keeps them in her bedroom, on her bedside table. I've seen them. So? Stephen didn't see where this was going. So maybe we should take a look, Sophia said. And Mama has pictures. Old pictures that she keeps locked up in that drawer. The one we're not supposed to go near. Maybe we should take a peek. Stephen's face scrunched up in disgust. That is not nice. Snooping on adults is bad. Mama said it's bad. You're not supposed to look through things that are private. Private things are private for a reason. I know, Sophia said, and she actually looked conflicted, like she knew it was wrong but couldn't stop herself from suggesting it anyway. But we need information. We need to find out what's going on in here. That woman we saw in that picture is clearly our mother, so clearly they know each other from somewhere. We need to find out the truth. Sebastian adjusted his glasses, his face serious. But if Mama finds out we went through her private things, she'll kill us. Actually kill us. Dead. Gone. Buried in the backyard. Only if she finds out, Sophia said. That's a big if, Stephen pointed out. They argued back and forth for what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes. Should they snoop? Should they not snoop? Was it worth the risk? What if they got caught? What if they didn't get caught but still didn't find anything useful? What if they did find something and it was worse than not knowing? The debate raged on until they heard the front door open. Their mother was home. Guys, I'm home, Esther's tired voice called out. The triplets looked at each other one last time, a silent agreement passing between them. We'll decide what to do later. Then they rushed out of Sophia's room to greet their mother. Esther looked absolutely exhausted, more tired than usual, if that was even possible. Her scrubs were wrinkled. Her hair was falling out of its bun. She had bags under her eyes that could carry groceries. She stumbled into the living room and literally collapsed onto the couch like someone had cut her strings. Mama, the triplets cried out, genuinely concerned. They rushed to her side. Sophia ran to the kitchen and came back with a cold glass of water. Sebastian and Stephen immediately started massaging her feet, something they'd learned from watching YouTube videos on how to help tired parents. Mama, you're working so hard, Sebastian said softly, his small hands pressing gently on her swollen feet. Yes, Stephen added, working on the other foot. Too hard. You're working too hard. And we love you, and we're grateful for all you do for us. Esther's eyes got a little misty. She looked at her 3 children, her whole world, and felt her heart swell with love so strong it almost hurt. "My kids are so grown," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "When did you grow so big? When did you become so thoughtful?" "We've always been thoughtful, Mama," Sophia said, handing her the water. We see how hard you work for us, and we appreciate it. We really do." Esther sipped the water and closed her eyes, enjoying the moment. Her babies, her sweet, wonderful babies. Then Stephen, in his infinite lack of timing, decided to ask the question. "Mama," he said, his voice careful, how would it be if we had a dad? A dad who could support us? Then maybe you wouldn't have to work so hard like this anymore." The change in Esther was immediate and dramatic. Her eyes flew open. Her whole body went rigid. Her face cycled through several emotions in rapid succession. Scared, angry, sad, defensive, hurt, all happening so fast the triplets could barely keep track. "What?" she said, her voice sharp. Too sharp, the triplets flinched. "What if we had a dad?" Sebastian repeated carefully, sensing they'd just stepped on a landmine. "Someone who could help, share the burden, help support the family." Esther sat up, her exhaustion seemingly forgotten. She looked at her children with an expression they had never seen before. It was pain, deep, old pain that had been buried but never healed. "Well," she said, her voice tight, controlled, "if you had a dad, maybe things would have been different, Ed, but you clearly don't. It's just us. It's always been just us. And we've always been together, haven't we? We always managed together. It's just us. Your dad is not in our lives. He's not in the picture. I don't even know where he is. So it's just us." She said it with such finality, such firmness, like she was trying to close a door that the triplets were trying to open. "And I'm sorry," she continued, her voice softer now, sadder. "I'm sorry I can't provide everything you need, but I'm trying my best. I'm trying so hard. Please be understanding. Please." The triplets didn't say anything else. They couldn't. The atmosphere in the room had changed. The warmth from moments ago had evaporated, replaced by a cold, uncomfortable tension. Esther got up, mumbled something about taking a shower, and disappeared into her bedroom. The triplets sat on the couch in silence. That hadn't gone well. Not well at all. Dinner that night was awkward, painfully awkward. Esther tried to make jokes, her usual funny comments about her day, about the patients at the hospital, about the nurse who kept trying to set her up on dates. But the triplets weren't laughing. They just smiled politely, ate their food quietly, responded with one-word answers. "How were your lessons today?" "Fine." "Did you finish your homework?" "Yes." "Did you play outside?" "A little." It was like talking to robots. Esther could feel the distance between them. Something had changed, something was wrong, but she was too tired to figure out what it was. After dinner, she kissed them goodnight. Forehead, right cheek, left cheek, routine, and they went to bed. But nobody slept. Esther lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering why her children had asked about their father. They'd asked before, of course. Every child asks eventually. But something about the way they'd asked today felt different, more pointed, more specific, like they knew something. But what could they possibly know? She pushed the thought away and tried to sleep. Meanwhile, in Sophia's room, all 3 triplets were wide awake, staring at the ceiling. Around midnight, Sophia couldn't take it anymore. She got up, tiptoed to her brother's room, and gently shook them awake. "Guys," she whispered, "we need to talk." They sat up, rubbing their eyes. "Did you notice how Mama's face changed the second we talked about our dad?" Sophia asked. "Yes," Sebastian said. She looked scared and angry, and she saw all at the same time. "She's always like that when we ask about our dad," Stephen pointed out. "For years, anytime we bring it up, she shuts down. I don't know why." "Well, I think we need to find out," Sophia said. "I think we need to look in that drawer, the locked one, where she keeps her Old stuff. But that's private, Stephen protested again. Mama will kill us. Only if she finds out, Sophia said, and she won't, because we're going to be smart about it. How? Sebastian asked, interested despite himself. We take the key, Sophia said simply. Mama always keeps her bunch of keys on her bedside table. All her keys, house keys, work keys, everything, including the key to that drawer. We sneak in tonight, take the key, and tomorrow when she's at work, we open the drawer and look inside. And if we get caught, Stephen asked. We won't get caught, Sophia said confidently. We're careful, we're smart, and we need to know what's going on. That woman we saw in that picture is our mother. Clearly they know each other, so we need to find out the truth. The boys looked at each other. This was a bad idea, a terrible idea, an idea that could get them grounded for the rest of their natural lives. But they wanted to know, they needed to know. Okay, Sebastian finally said. But if we do this, we do it right. We can't just snoop randomly. We take the key tonight. Tomorrow, when Mama's at work, we open the drawer, look through it quickly, take mental notes, put everything back exactly where it was, and lock it again. In and out. Clean. Professional. Like a mission, Stephen said, starting to get excited despite himself. Exactly like a mission, Sophia agreed. They looked at each other, and in that moment, they made their decision. They were going to do it. They were going to find out the truth, even if the truth turned out to be something they weren't ready to hear. Getting the key turned out to be easier than they expected. They decided Sebastian should be the one to sneak into their mother's room. He was the lightest, the quietest, and according to Stephen, the least likely to trip over air and wake up the entire neighborhood. At exactly 1 a.m., they'd been watching the clock, waiting. Sebastian tiptoed out of his room. The apartment was dark, silent. The only sound was the gentle hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and Esther's soft snoring from her bedroom. Sebastian moved slowly, placing each foot carefully, avoiding the spots on the floor that creaked. He'd mapped them out years ago during a game of Don't Wake Mama. He reached his mother's door. It was slightly ajar. She always left it open a crack, so she could hear them if they called out in the night. He pushed it open slowly, inch by inch, praying it wouldn't squeak. It didn't, thank God. Inside, his mother was fast asleep, sprawled across her bed like she'd just collapsed there. She was still in her scrubs. She hadn't even changed. She must have been that tired. Sebastian felt a pang of guilt. They were about to invade her privacy, betray her trust, but they needed answers. He crept to her bedside table. There it was, a small bowl where she always kept her keys, house keys, work keys. Car keys, she didn't have a car for anymore but kept anyway. And somewhere in there, the key to the locked drawer. Sebastian picked up the key ring slowly, wincing at the slight jingle. He froze, his mother stirred, muttering something in her sleep. Sebastian didn't breathe, didn't move, waited. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 10 seconds, Esther settled back into deep sleep, her snoring resuming. Sebastian let out a silent breath. He examined the keys in the dim light coming through the window. There were at least 8 keys on the ring. He had no idea which one was for the drawer. He'd have to take the whole ring. Carefully, moving slower than he'd ever moved in his life, he lifted the key ring off the table. Then, moving backwards, retracing his steps exactly, he made his way out of the room. Out the door, down the hallway, back to Sophia's room where his siblings were waiting. When he closed Sophia's door behind him, he let out a huge breath. "I got it," he whispered, holding up the keyring like a trophy. "Yes!" Stephen Whisper shouted, pumping his fist. "Shh," Sophia hissed. "Mama will hear you." They examined the keyring together, trying to figure out which key belonged to the drawer. There was a big key, probably the main door. 2 small keys, maybe work lockers. A car key, said on. A few others they couldn't identify. "We'll just have to try them all tomorrow," Sophia decided. "For now, we hide this where Mama won't find it." She took the key to the drawer. They'd identified it by process of elimination. It was the only small brass key that looked old and well used, and hid it in her sock drawer, buried under her Sunday socks that she only wore to church. Then Sebastian snuck back into their mother's room, this time even more terrified, and returned the key ring to the bowl. Mission accomplished. Phase 1 complete. Now they just had to wait for morning. The next morning, Esther woke up, rushed through her routine. She was running late, made breakfast for the kids, toast and eggs, nothing fancy, gave them the usual instructions, kissed them goodbye, and ran out the door. She didn't notice anything amiss, didn't notice that one of her keys had been temporarily borrowed and returned, didn't notice the guilty expressions on her children's faces. She was too busy, too rushed, too exhausted to notice. The moment the door closed behind her, the triplets sprang into action. They didn't even wait for their lessons to finish. Mr. Dewell showed up at 9 a.m. as usual, and the triplets could barely sit still. "You three are distracted again," he noted with a sigh. "What is it this time? Christmas excitement? Sugar? Did you eat sugar for breakfast?" "Sorry, sir," they mumbled. Somehow they made it through the 2 hours. Somehow they managed to answer enough questions correctly that Mr. Adewell didn't get too suspicious. The moment he left at 11 a.m., they ran to their mother's room. Sophia pulled out the hidden key from her sock drawer. They stood in front of the locked drawer, a small wooden chest that sat at the bottom of their mother's closet, covered with a blanket like she was trying to hide it. "Last chance to back out," Sophia said, looking at her brothers. They both shook their heads. "We've come this far," Sebastian said. "Let's do it," Stephen agreed. Sophia inserted the key. It fit perfectly. She turned it. Click. The lock opened. She lifted the lid, and they all leaned in to look. Inside was a box. A simple cardboard box, the kind you might use to store old photos. Sophia lifted it out carefully like it might explode. They sat on their mother's bed, something they usually weren't allowed to do, and opened the box. Inside were layers of memories, photos, letters in envelopes, some opened, some still sealed, a necklace with a small pendant, a locket, a ring, looked like an engagement ring, but their mother never wore rings. Cards, birthday cards, Valentine's Day cards, anniversary cards, and more photos. So many photos. The triplets carefully pulled out the stack of photographs, handling them like ancient artifacts, and then they froze. The first photo made them stop breathing. It was their mother and him, Kenneth, the man from the mansion. They were sitting together on a bench, his arm around her shoulders, both of them smiling at the camera like they didn't have a care in the world. They looked young, happy, in love. "It's him," Sophia whispered. "It's Mr. Kenneth." "Yes," Sebastian breathed. "It's definitely him." They flipped to the next photo. Same thing. Their mother and Kenneth, this time at what looked like a restaurant, holding hands across the table. Next photo. At the beach, building a sandcastle together. Next photo. At a party, dancing. Next photo. At what looked like a university event, both wearing graduation gowns. Photo after photo after photo, all of them together, all of them happy, all of them looking like a couple. "This is him," Stephen said, his voice shaking. "This is really him. But how do they know each other? They look so happy together. What happened? And why is Mama keeping so many pictures of him like this?" Sebastian asked. "Hidden away in a locked drawer? There's something we don't know about, something big." "Should we confront her?" Stephen asked. "Should we tell her we know?" "No," Sophia said immediately. "That's a bad idea, a very bad idea. If we tell her we went through her private things, she'll be so angry, she'll probably ground us for a year, maybe 2 years. We need to take this easy. We need more information first." They went through the entire box methodically. Letters, love letters, from the dates on them, written years ago. They didn't read them, that felt like a step too far even for them, but they could see they were signed Kenneth. Cards, Valentine's Day cards, birthday cards, all signed Kenneth, or K, or with love K. The necklace looked expensive, had initials on it, EA, Esther Adakunle. The ring, definitely an engagement ring. Beautiful, expensive looking. They looked at each other, the implications sinking in. They were in Yan, Sophia said slowly. They were going to get married. But they didn't, Sebastian said, obviously because Mama's not married, she's single. So what happened? Stephen asked. Why didn't they get married? What went wrong? Nobody had answers. They carefully put everything back in the box, exactly as they'd found it. They made sure every photo was in the same order, every letter in the same position. They closed the box, put it back in the drawer, covered it with the blanket, and locked the drawer. Sophia hid the key back in her sock drawer, and then they sat in Sophia's room, processing what they just discovered. Their mother had been engaged to Kenneth. Kenneth was the man whose house they were working in. Kenneth might be. They didn't want to say it out loud, didn't want to jinx it or make it real, but the thought hung in the air between them, growing stronger with every passing second. What if Kenneth was their father? That afternoon, they went to do their jobs, walked Willie. The dog seemed to sense their distracted mood and kept looking up at them with concerned puppy eyes. Fed the chickens, got pecked less than usual because they were moving slowly, carefully, their minds elsewhere. Watered Mr. Attawale's garden, almost overwatered one section because Sebastian forgot he was still holding the hose. And then, Kenneth's mansion. They approached it with a new perspective now. This wasn't just the house of a rich man who had hired them. This was potentially their father's house. Their father's house. Pa Solomon greeted them warmly as always. My favorite triplets, right on time today. Very good. Mrs. Rachel let them in, her smile kind and welcoming. Hello, children. Mr. Kenneth is in his office waiting for you. You know the way now, yes? They went upstairs, knocked on the office door. Come in, Kenneth's voice called. They entered, and this time they looked at him differently. Really looked at him. His face, his smile, his eyes. Trying to see if they could see themselves in him. Trying to see if there was any resemblance. Sebastian had his nose, maybe. That straight, defined nose. Stephen had his smile. That easy, warm smile that made people feel comfortable. Sophia had his determination. That focus, driven energy. Or were they imagining it? Seeing what they wanted to see? Good afternoon, sir, they chorused. Good afternoon, Kenneth said cheerfully. He seemed to be in a better mood today. Less tired, more energetic. Ready for another day of work? Yes, sir. Excellent. Today I need you to organize that shelf over there. He pointed to a different bookshelf. Same system as yesterday. And if you finish early, you can start on that shelf too. Take your time, do it right, quality over speed. Yes, sir. They got to work, but every few minutes when Kenneth wasn't looking, they would glance at him, studying him, wondering. And whenever Kenneth left the room, which he did a few times to take calls or get coffee, they would sneak glances at that romance book, the one with their mother's picture. They wanted to look at it again, to confirm what they'd seen, to make sure they hadn't imagined it, but they didn't dare pull it out when Kenneth was there. They just worked quietly, their minds spinning with questions that had no answers. When their 2 hours were up and it was time to leave, Mrs. Rachel gave them their daily payment and some snacks. Today it was meat pies and fresh juice. You children are so wonderful, she said warmly. Mr. Kenneth keeps saying how professional you are, how careful, how hardworking. He's very impressed with you. Thank you, ma'am, they said quietly. They walked home in silence again. The same heavy, thoughtful silence from yesterday. When they got home, they did their usual routine, cleaned up a bit, set the table for dinner, waited for their mother. But this time there was a plan forming. They needed to know the truth, and they were going to get it. When Esther came home that evening, the triplets were waiting for her. They decided, after much debate and argument and a near fist fight between Sebastian and Stephen, that they were going to confront her. Tonight, no more waiting, no more hints, no more dancing around the subject. They needed answers. They deserved answers. Esther stumbled through the door at 7 p.m., looking even more exhausted than usual, if that was possible. She dropped her bag on the floor, kicked off her shoes, and was heading toward the couch when Sophia's voice stopped her. "Mama, we need to talk." Something in her daughter's voice made Esther pause. It wasn't the usual, "we need to talk about more screen time," or "we need to talk about getting adult." This was serious. She turned around slowly. All three of her children were sitting on the couch, side by side, their faces grave. "What's wrong?" Esther asked, her heart starting to beat faster. "Did something happen? Are you okay? Did someone get hurt?" "We're fine, Mama," Sophia said, "but we have a question, and we need you to answer it, honestly." Esther felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. "Okay," she said slowly, sitting down in the chair across from them. "What's the question?" The triplets looked at each other, a silent conversation passing between them about who should speak first. Finally, Sophia took a deep breath and asked, "Who is our daddy?" Esther's face immediately changed, that same expression from last night. Scared, angry, sad, defensive. "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice tight. "I thought I already told you that your dad is not in our lives, that it's just us. Why are you asking again?" "Because, Mama," Sebastian said, his voice trembling slightly, "it's not just us. Clearly you had a boyfriend or a husband or something. That's how babies are made, right? So who is our father? Where is he? Is he dead? Is he alive? What is his name? We want to know him. We need to know him." "Kids," Esther said, her hands shaking now. Mama's situation is complicated. Very complicated. You wouldn't understand." "We just want to know," Stephen burst out, his voice loud and desperate and frustrated. "We've been living all our lives like this without knowing our daddy, and it's really frustrating. Do you know how many times we've been bullied in school because we don't have a dad? Do you know how many times we've been called names? They call us bastards, Mama, the B word, and we can't even defend ourselves because we don't know anything about our dad." Esther flinched like she'd been slapped. "And we want our dad to come to sports day," Sebastian added, his voice cracking with emotion. "All the other kids have their dads there, cheering for them, taking pictures, being proud. And we just sit there alone, and everyone asks, 'Where's your dad?' And we don't know what to say. And I want to go on a daddy-daughter date," Sophia said, and to everyone's shock, tears were running down her face. Sophia never cried. "I want to wear a pretty dress and go to a restaurant and feel special. All my friends talk about their daddy-daughter dates, and I just sit there and smile and pretend it doesn't hurt, that I'll never have that." "You're denying us all of that," Stephen shouted, standing up now, his face red. "It's not fair. It's not fair." "Guys, please calm down," Esther said, her own voice breaking now. I don't know how to. It's very complicated, very messy. A lot happened that I can't tell you right now. If I tell you, it's going to ruin your childhood. I don't want that. I don't want you to carry what I've been carrying." "Mama," Sophia said, wiping her tears angrily, "we are not kids anymore. We're 7. We can handle things. Just tell us. We can handle anything." "Babies, you cannot handle this," Esther said, and now she was crying too. "You can't. A lot happened. things that are too painful, too complicated. I will tell you when you're just a bit older, when you can really understand. Please just give me more time. Please. No, all three of them shouted together. We're not going to give you more time, Sophia said. You're going to tell us. You're going to figure out whatever it is that's going on with you, and you're going to tell us. I can't, Esther sobbed. I can't, not yet, please. But the triplets were done listening, done waiting, done being patient. They stood up together and marched to their rooms. Where are you going? Esther called after them, panicking. Babies, please, come back. We can talk about this. Go away, Mama, Stephen shouted from his room. We don't want to talk to you. You're lying to us. I'm not lying, Esther cried, standing outside their doors. It's just very complicated. Please try to understand. We don't want to understand, Sophia shouted through her closed door. We don't want to talk to you. They locked their doors. All three of them. For the first time in their lives, they locked their doors against their mother. Esther stood in the hallway, tears streaming down her face, feeling like her heart was being torn in half. She knocked on each door, pleading, Babies, please, I know you're angry, but you shouldn't skip dinner. You need to eat. Please, please open the door. Go away, they all shouted. Esther slid down to the floor, her back against the wall, and sobbed. This was her worst nightmare. Her children hating her children shutting her out, her children demanding answers she didn't know how to give. How could she tell them? How could she explain that she didn't even know who their father was? That she'd been drugged and framed and accused and abandoned? That she'd spent 7 years not knowing if they were Kenneth's children or Kelvin's children? How could she burden her 7-year-old babies with that trauma? She couldn't. She just couldn't. After an hour of crying outside their doors and getting no response, Esther finally dragged herself to her own room. She closed the door, and for the first time in years, since those dark days right after everything fell apart, she broke down completely. She cried until there were no tears left, cried for everything she'd lost, cried for the life she'd imagined but never got to live, cried for her children who were suffering because of choices she didn't even make, cried for Kenneth, who she'd loved with all her heart, cried for the girl she used to be, who thought she had her whole life figured out. She cried until she was empty, and then, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, she thought back to how it all began, back to the moment her life changed forever, back to Kenneth, back to the beginning.